Thursday morning to you. Welcome to the broadcast. So glad you're joining us this morning, and hope your day is off to a good start. Did anybody watch the Zimmerman trial, any of the Zimmerman coverage yesterday?
A little
I'll
bit
tell
of
you
it.
something. I understand that the attorney's job is sometimes shock and awe, but the way this trial kicked off with opening statements, the prosecutor opens with the F word, the A word. I mean, all these cuss words, basically talking about George Zimmerman and the words that he used himself. But I think the most shocking part was Zimmerman's attorney and his opening statement. He opened actually with a joke, and I think we have a piece of that video if we can show that. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Knock, he needs to go home.
Do we have that to show? Anyway, he opens with this joke. He says, knock, knock.
Oh,
she's about to play it.
I think the evidence will show that this is a sad case, that there are no monsters here. Sometimes you have to laugh to keep from crying. So let me, at considerable risk, let me say.
Yeah, considerable risk.
I'd like to tell you a little joke. I know how that may sound a bit weird in this context under these circumstances. But I think you're the perfect audience for it. As long as you if you don't like it or you don't think it's funny or inappropriate, that you don't hold it against Mr. Zimmerman. You can hold it against me if you want, but not Mr. Zimmerman. I have your assurance you won't.
What an idiot.
Here's how it goes. Knock, knock.
Oh, God.
Who's there? George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman, who?
Are you kidding me?
No.
All right, good. You're on the jury.
Did you hear that? Good, you're on the jury. Basically, I think what he did is he set up the jury, first of all, to feel like idiots, because he's basically saying,
You don't know what's
if you're on
going
the jury,
on.
then you don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
Then you've been living under a rock if you don't know who George Zimmerman is. I think that was the riskiest thing he could have done. I'm no attorney, but it doesn't take an attorney to know that was a dumb thing. Actually, Dawn Neufeld, our friend of the show and attorney, is going to join us on Friday, and she'll be wrapping up all the
And the way he
Zimmerman
set
trials.
it up. I mean, if you don't like it, then, and dragging out. Of course they weren't going to like it. Nobody was expecting anything.
And they said not even a crack of a smile, not anything. And then you see the other attorneys, like the prosecutors, going,
We
what?
won.
They're like, are you kidding me?
We won.
They're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a young man who was killed. His parents are sitting out there in that courtroom.
Yeah.
And that's the best way you can start this case off?
Right.
I mean, I was totally offended by it.
I was completely
and hurt
offended
for
by
the
it, too.
parents, hurt for everybody that was sitting there watching, and embarrassed for him.
Yeah, so I think
But here's the deal. I'm just going to go ahead and say it.
Are you going to be the devil's advocate again?
I'm not going to be the devil's advocate. I'm just going to say this trial is getting a lot of attention, and so he's kind of doing something fairly smart because everyone's talking about him, and if people weren't engaged, now they are engaged. And so maybe he's like dumbing down himself to set up potential arguments in the future. I mean, you never know. He's a smart person. He's an attorney. He's been hired to be an attorney for a huge national case. So obviously he's not a complete idiot. You might not like his sense of humor, but he did it for a reason, and we will find out what reason that is. But sometimes people do stuff for shock value to get your attention, and clearly it's working because we're all talking about it.
But,
and I think the
not all
prosecutor-
attention is good attention.
Well,
Courtney.
the only thing worse than people talking bad about you is people not talking about you at all.
Oh, well, I don't see it that way at all. I think that it's embarrassing if you do something that has people talking about
I'm not
you in that
saying I
way.
agree with what
but
he
you're
did.
saying
I'm
the
just
only
saying.
you're saying the only bad attention is nobody's talking about you. Well, it's not. Whose goal is it to be talked about?
Well, this is
the goal
making
is to, the
news.
goal
We
is
are
to
talking
find
about
out
it.
what happened with this young man. The bottom line, what happened to this boy?
You know what I think was the most interesting piece, and of course we heard this on the news long before the trial, but it came up again in some of the coverage this morning, was the 911 tape of the dispatcher saying, of Zimmerman saying, I'm following him, and the dispatcher saying, we don't need you to do that. We don't need you to actually follow this boy. And I think that is going to be a huge piece of the case,
But then
like
they
Dawn
said to
Neufeld
him,
said.
then they asked him a question. They asked him a question, which you could assume they needed information from him. So they didn't just say don't follow him. They asked a question that he would only know if he kept following him. See what I'm saying? So that even is in dispute.
Yeah.
It's just it's going back to the joke though. If the guy knew how to tell a joke. You know,
You're mad about his delivery more than anything.
all she kept
It had
saying.
nothing to do with the trial. So she's
No,
just like,
I
learn
mean,
some
if you
comedic
can't
timing.
Tell a joke, don't tell
do
a
it at
joke.
all.
Don't tell a joke.
Well, and especially don't
So
set
if he
it-
would have told a joke and it would have been funny,
Yeah.
would you be okay with it? Okay, so Susie might kind of be on my side.